YouTube, what the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here, back in another dwarf battle because this is the week of the dwarf challenge. This time it's going to be dwarf on dwarf. What? Yeah, I picked the dwarfs and my opponent picked the dwarfs. Interestingly enough, I've only had one player pick the vampires, and both games I played against him weren't very good. He just completely misplayed the vampires, so I haven't showed those ones, and I've opted to show different ones. But yeah, this is an Alpine Ridge, or no, it's not Alpine Ridge. It's I don't know what this one is. Anyway, whatever the map was, you can see that he's got grudge throwers to my cannons. I've brought a very cheap infantry line, and I've actually, this is so nice as the dwarfs to not have to box up. So I've spread out wide because I know that he won't have any mobility either. I decided not to bring gyrocopters because the dwarfs are pretty heavy on armor, and they're pretty heavy on skirmishers, which means I would have to bring brimstone guns, and those are really best against large targets. So I didn't bring gyrocopters. I've got a main line of dwarf warriors with great weapons, supported by a runesmith, led by Ironfist, not Thorgrim. And I was tempted to bring Thorgrim because he gives buffs to the infantry that I could use, but I feel like Ironfist is going to be better at helping take down enemy heroes and lords. I've got two Thunderers because Thunderers have a good anti-armor capability. I did know that I might be up against Quarrelers though, and I've got two Miners way out on the flanks. I'm going to use these guys for outmaneuvering. Let's go check out my opponent's army. He's got two units of Iron Breakers, and they're on his right flank. And up in front of them, he's got units of Miners ready to sit there while he throws in blasting charges. He's got some Longbeards, so he's spent more money on his infantry. His skirmishers are Quarrelers with great weapons, so they'll be pretty expensive. They'll just be a little bit better in melee. Maybe a good choice in the end if it comes to it, but these guys are a lot more expensive, though he saves some of the money by bringing grudge throwers, which are cheaper than the cannons. My cannons aren't doing great because they're really meant for anti-large targets, but they are getting some work done versus his guys. I'm having to run forward. His grudge throwers continue to fire. You can see he's getting hits on my Thunderers. I really don't want him to kill my Thunderers, so it's kind of scary for me. My Miners are starting to take Quarreler fire. This is fine. As long as they can keep the Quarrelers, my main line is going to be extremely vulnerable to skirmishers because they don't have shields. I knew I wanted the anti-armor component. So here we are. I'm going to charge in, and I'm going to take his main line head on. He does have better infantry than me, but I'm spread out a little wider, and I feel like that maybe if I can get some outflanking and use my Thunderers to good effect and let my cannons get some good shots, closing the distance will be the smarter thing here. So here comes my Thane. He's going to lead into the charge. Ironfist is going to lead in the center. His Miners are going to stop me momentarily while the blasting charges start to come in. I'm going to take a lot of damage from that. Ungrim's going to charge into battle against these Longbeards. And then my Miners have made it successfully around the flank. His Iron Breakers are causing damage, but he's not using them to intercept my Miners, who are going to get to his Quarrelers with great weapons. And that was the real plan here, was to shut down his skirmishers. Let me show you what's going on from the overhead. My Runesmith comes in, and I'm going to have the Rune of Negation and the Rune of Oath and Steel. Rune of Negation, my opponent did not bring a Runesmith. He's just got Thorgrim for his lord, and Thorgrim is eating copious amounts of fire from my Thunderers, and I'm basically tying down all of his Quarrelers at the moment. These ones are getting hit by cannons. He's got a misclick on them. They're clicked onto something, and I don't know where they're going. But Thorgrim is eating tons of fire. My Miners have pinned down some of his Quarrelers back here. Some of his Quarrelers here wandered into combat, which was a big mistake. His Iron Breakers are tossing a lot of charges on his own men there. My Runesmith was in combat, and I decided to scoot him away from that. So at this point, I'm pushing hard. The Iron Breakers here are in a pretty cost-ineffective battle because these warriors and the Thane are a lot cheaper, and they're getting a lot more work done. So the Thunderers here have paid dividends in the fact that they've weakened Thorgrim substantially. And now I'm able to use the Thunderers to shoot across my men and into the back of these dwarf warriors with great weapons, which would have otherwise defeated my Miners here. My Runesmith's still alive, so the units around him are being buffed in terms of their melee capability. So against the Longbeards, my anti-armor bonus that I get with the dwarf warriors is trading extremely well. And since there's no psychology effects, my dwarf warriors with great weapons will stay in this combat for a long time. I've pretty much wrecked most of his Iron Breakers at this point. They just haven't done well against my cheaper infantry. They're not geared for that kind of fight. And here I'm able to use my my Thunderers to tear apart this Quarreler with great weapons, which was trying to do some extra damage to me, and it's looking pretty bad for my opponent at this point because Thorgrim just kicked the bucket. He doesn't have the High King ability, so if he brought it, it's not working. Wasn't really sure if he brought it though. So at this point, with the loss of Thorgrim and no other units there to support, whereas I still have Thanes, and again, the Thanes help boost the morale of the cheaper Dwarf Warriors, and they can also tank up a lot of the hit points, which can be pretty useful. So a Thane with a healing potion is very cheap. I find it to be useful in certain situations for the Dwarfs, not against every faction, but where you're going to actually get in a big grind out, they can be pretty handy sometimes. The Runesmith also is pretty handy if you use the stuff right. I actually used Rune of Negation fairly early in the fighting this time, maybe not quite early enough, but it was good. Definitely helped me out a lot. Let's go ahead and end this replay and take a look at the statistics. So on the Dwarf Civil War there, looks like Ungrim defeats Thorgrim. I think my opponent's mistakes here were that the Quarrelers with great weapons were a little bit of wasted spend. I'm kind of okay with his pick on the Grudge Throwers. They're long range and they're cheap, and they were almost as effective as my cannons. Not quite, but almost. All of his Quarrelers, though, if you look, not a lot of kills on my Thunderers, but my Thunderers did extreme damage to his Lord, and so they were very much worth it. Ungrim Ironfist being able to take on his Lord, again, was a big deal. And then the Thanes being able to tank some of the damage from his better infantry, allowing my cheaper infantry to get a lot of work done, was a big deal here as well. So you can see how much cheaper my infantry was. 500 here on these 7 Dwarf Warriors with great weapons, versus he had 4 Longbeards and 2 Ironbreakers. Now he technically did have more men on the battlefield than me too, probably because I brought some heroes and stuff in my army, but in terms of units, I was pretty much, I was 1 unit more than him. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this one. Again, feel like I'm learning a little bit more about the Dwarfs. It was my first time to go Dwarf Civil War. I could see this going all kinds of different directions depending on the crazy counter picks that people decide to use. But feel like that this one was a little bit better for me in terms of performance. It felt nice to not have to worry about my flanks for once as a dwarf and being able to just charge in and fight. So that was pretty great. Anyway, hope you all are enjoying this Beard Rip Stuntie Dwarf-focused week. I'm enjoying making these videos for you. If you want to help support me, watching the videos like you just did is extremely helpful and the first and foremost thing. If you'd like to subscribe, I have a logo down there in the bottom right-hand corner. And if you like the video, feel free to like it. Again, that's up to you. I'm not telling you have to. I'm just saying if you want to support me, those things help a lot. Love making these videos for you guys. I'm having a lot of fun this week. I'm learning a lot. Leave your comments. Tell me what you think. What are you learning about the dwarves? What kind of questions do you have left? Let's keep the conversation going. Like I said, I'm hoping to kind of wrap up like a good bunch of knowledge on the dwarfs this week. This is a learn as I go thing. It may last more than a week. We'll see. HeirofCarthage signing out for now. Appreciate MSI having sponsored this build, and I will see you all next time.